Hey guys, it's Aaron Farmer here with MySugarFreeJourney.com, and we are in day 8 of our 28-day challenge. Actually, we're in day 9, so I'm recapping everything that came out yesterday for day 8, the information we talked about in the video last night. This will probably be one of the more popular videos in this thing because yesterday was Memorial Day and there weren't a whole lot of people in the Facebook group, which I totally understand. So hopefully those of you that missed the Facebook video, this will be helpful for you. So today what we're going to talk about is where do fat cells come, where do fat cells come from, how are they filled, and how do we empty them? So really, these are the big questions that science is trying to answer in the the science of obesity and studying why we get fat. So where the fat cells come from, how do we fill them, how do we empty them, how do we deal with them? So one thing that we're pretty sure of is that the number of fat cells that you have is pretty much determined at birth, which is a good thing. Your fat acts as a cushion for your internal organs during birth. It keeps you warm so that you're not at the mercy of the elements. For most of human history, fat was a good thing. And the more fat that you had, the better your chances of survival. It's really only in the last 50 years that that obesity has become the epidemic that it has. So the number of fat cells you have is determined mainly by 4 different factors. Let's go through those real quick. Number 1, genetics. There's obviously a genetic factor in obesity, but our genes don't change fast enough to explain the obesity epidemic that's happened in the last 50 years. So it's not a genetic thing that's been happening. Number 2, epigenetics. So epi means on top of, so this is epigenetics. These are changes that happen around the genes but not actually change the genes themselves. So epigenetic factors can suppress healthy gene function, and they can also be passed from parent to child. So your diet would be an epigenetic factor, things that don't change your genes but change the way that your body functions around those genes. Number 3, developmental programming. These are factors that affect the baby in the womb. So, for example, if a mother is undernourished or develops gestational diabetes, the baby will develop increased insulin sensitivity in an effort to gain weight as a survival mechanism. So the mother is malnourished, the baby's doing everything it can to survive, so the hormones go into overdrive basically to try to pack more fat onto the baby in order to give it a better chance for survival. So babies that are born with low birth weights, because the mother is malnourished usually, are at an increased risk of obesity later in life, as those hormones work to pack on the pounds to increase their survival chances, but they don't stop. They don't stop at birth. Usually, they continue to work to pack on those pounds because your hormones are in survival mode and pack on the pounds mode, and so babies that are born to undernourished mothers will a lot of times will have to struggle with obesity later in life. And number 4, environmental toxins. We're not going to talk a whole lot about environmental toxins today. It is coming up. I want to do one video just on the different environmental toxins and how they affect obesity. We will get there eventually, but for now, just know that we know that there are substances in the environment that can increase adipose tissue, that can increase fat. So, like I said, we'll go into more detail about that later on in life, in a future video. So, if you've been fat your entire life, there's every reason to believe that it's not entirely your fault. In fact, it may not be at all your fault, but there is hope. And I know that's a controversial statement, because you don't want to take away someone's agency, but there are things that might have happened to you long before you were able to make wise decisions about what you were eating or whatever that made you genetically predisposed to be obese. So the number of fat cells is determined at birth, but how are they filled? And this is really the $1 million question. We've all seen reports that blame everything from lack of school recess to too much screen time to too much Facebook, to all kinds of different things being blamed on obesity. But really, what we know now is that obesity begins and ends with insulin. If you can control your insulin, you can control your weight, and it's really just as simple as that. If we can get your insulin levels down, we can get the weight off of you. And like as I've been saying, that's something that we have, that I, and let's say we, me and my wife, have really focused on these last couple years. And I know she's lost over 100 pounds, and I've lost, as of this morning, about 138 pounds. And so the weight just continues to come off little by little, and all we're doing is suppressing that insulin response, eating foods that don't cause a huge spike in insulin or a huge spike in blood sugar, which causes a huge spike in insulin. We're just not eating carbs, not eating sugar. So there are 3 ways to increase your insulin. Number 1, just eat a meal. That's particularly a meal that's high in sugar or carbohydrates. This makes your pancreas secrete insulin and to deal with the increased blood sugar. And so if you have a high carb meal, more insulin is released and more weight is gained. Number 3, if you have fat built up around your liver, your pancreas will have to work harder to make more insulin than normal to overcome the increased insulin resistance in your liver. So your liver is insulin resistant, as well as your muscle tissue, but your liver is insulin resistant, so your pancreas has to pump out more insulin in order to overcome that insulin resistance, so that your liver can do its job of turning the food that you eat into fuel. Number 3, be stressed out. So the stress makes the hormone cortisol, which makes your liver and muscles more insulin resistant. It may also work on your brain to make you eat more. We actually talked about that yesterday, what cortisol does. But those are the 3 things that will increase your insulin. Eat a high carb meal, have too much fat around your liver, and be stressed out. And for a lot of us, that's what we do every day. Every day we eat high carb meals. We already have fat built up around our liver, and we're constantly stressed out, and all these factors work together to promote more insulin in your bloodstream, which promotes weight gain. So once a glucose molecule is in your bloodstream, there's only 3 things that can happen. Either you can use it, burn it up through exercise, and so if you're not exercising regularly, you're probably not doing that. Or 2, you can store it as fat, which again, if you're eating high carb meals and not exercising, that's probably what's happening, is every time you eat, that glucose is being stored away as fat. Or number 3, you can pass it out through urine, which will eventually destroy your kidneys. That's not what you want to happen. You do not want to be urinating out glucose. But that's it. Those are your only choices. If you eat a high carb, high sugar meal, either you're going to use it for energy, which if you're a sedentary, you're not doing a lot of exercise, you're just not going to do, or you're going to store it away as fat. And or you're going to urinate it out as urine, but you don't want to do that. So every time you eat a high carb meal, you're helping fill your natural fat cells more and more. And as we move forward through this, we'll talk about the different ways that you can get those fat cells empty. But I think it's important that we take a minute to discuss where fat cells come from and how exactly they are being filled. And we know that they are being filled by insulin. Insulin is the mechanism by which they're being filled. So reduce your insulin, reduce how full your fat cells get, lose some weight. All right, I appreciate you watching. This has been day 8 of the 28-day challenge. We will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.